Brought to you by Lister Pros TV, streaming from Tempe, Arizona. And we're live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Special guest on Real Estate Pros on Lister Pros TV. We are here with Chris Tiller of Russ Lyon Sotheby's.
Yes, sir. I'm trying to share this thing, and this thing is not.
And you've been there for a while, right?
Yeah, about probably 6 years now.
Yeah?
Yep.
I know, ever since I've known you. I think
Yeah,
we
since
started
you
work together
When it was
2014.
It was just you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just me back in 2014. Now, your setup, I'll give you a second to introduce yourself in a second, but your setup, are you under a team or you're by yourself? Because I saw your recent marketing. It was like the M group, something group.
The W group, yeah.
The W group.
Yeah, I mean, it's a team, but we're geographic, so it's more partnerships more than anything else. Yeah.
All right, awesome. So today our main topic of discussion is going to be a transaction business versus a relationship business and how you grow it. So anyways, for those that don't know who you are, give everybody a little background on you, when you got in the business, how long you've been an agent for, why you got in the business.
Yeah, so started in 06. So I got my license, I believe, in about 09. I was helping a guy flip houses from 06 to 07, and then started kind of doing that on my own, and then realized I wanted to transition over to the transaction side of actually selling the home. So got started because a guy I was laying artificial grass for was about my age. He was about 22, 23 at the time. He'd pull up in this real nice Mercedes and cut me a check for sitting in the sun swinging a hammer all day. And I said, "What do you do for a living?" And he's like, "I flip houses." I'm like, "You teach me how to do that, I'll quit tomorrow." That's literally what happened.
Hold on, so were you doing artificial grass?
I was putting in artificial grass, yeah.
You still know how to do that?
I could, yeah, I could. But
when was the last time you got your hands dirty, Chris?
This morning, changing
really?
lock boxes, yeah. Yeah, I dropped it over, there's a condo over in Scottsdale. I dropped the box behind one of the AC vents, and I had to reach behind and got my hands all dirty.
Yeah, you've been on fire lately. I think we, several listings, so...
ebbs and flows.
Yeah, awesome. So Russ Lyon Sotheby's, why did you choose Russ Lyons?
Every broker is going to offer somebody something different. You're always going to match up with personalities different than others. I started at Keller for the training, and then once I felt like that training was kind of where I had maxed out, I transitioned over. I wanted my price point to kind of jump up a little bit. And it's just family atmosphere over there.
Russ Lyons, in my opinion, it kind of has like a luxury branding to it.
Right.
Has that helped you in your business?
It's hurt me.
It's hurt you, really?
Yeah, because I focus mostly Southeast Valley. So I'm, Gilbert, Chandler, Tempe, Mesa, those kinds of areas.
Right, and they're like, oh, you're with Russ Lyons.
Yeah, you guys only do luxury. They feel like they're not going to get the attention.
Hey, I feel intimidated. Look at this shirt he's got over here.
Like
it's
$40, man. I'm a bargain shopper.
I'm a T-shirt man. I know. I come from corporate America, so I used to wear suits every day. So now you know why I view full swing back to.
I don't blame you.
To
refuse to put on a tie now.
Sometimes they want me to do something like that for some events and stuff like that. I'm like,
who's
like we have a sales guy that kind. Anyways.
No, I like the style, man.
It's really tough.
It's branding.
Yeah,
I like it.
There we go. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the transaction side. So your business grown quite a bit. Since you've been an agent for about 8 years now, since 09 you said?
That, yeah.
And your business is primarily focused on referrals and relationships. Obviously, you're staying really, really busy. Have you ever done the lead generation or expire listings or all that stuff? How have you evolved over and kind of talk to us a little bit about how it was when you were doing those calls and stuff, or do you still do them?
No, I really don't. When I started with Keller, and everyone's pretty familiar with the Keller model, I think, where you have 100 phone calls a day, you have lead gen first 3 hours of your day.
So is that pretty much what they push onto every single agent?
Yeah, the red book. Most agents will
understand
understand it's the red book, so to speak. Yeah, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent came out a long time ago, and they set you up in a formula, and you plug the formula in, and you'll find success, and that's the idea. Yeah, so anyway, I started out with that sort of a model where I wanted to get transactions under my belt. So it was kind of in the REO world is where I kind of cut my teeth. And it was, $60,000 to $100,000 houses, converting sign calls and making 100, 200 phone calls a day with a headset. you're a call center. That's what you were doing. And I wanted to do that just to get the transaction count under my belt. So when you're processing and writing offers on these foreclosures and you're helping buyers and sellers in that type of a world, you get the contract down pat. I mean, there's that the experience that comes with doing that many transactions is completely invaluable. Whereas, if you move forward more to like a luxury agent who maybe does $50 or $60 million in transactions, that might only translate to 10, 15, 20 deals a year. So if you're only writing 20 contracts annually, your experience on flying through those types of things, how to negotiate with different agents, you really don't have the experience level that, say, a lower level type purchase would bring, if that makes sense. Somebody that's processing 70, 80, 90, 100, 200 transactions a year, writing that many contracts, negotiating with that many different agents, seeing that many homes, just gives you a different level of experience. So that's kind of where I started, where I did.
So you did high volume of transactions, which is good for any new agent because you get familiar with the entire transaction. That's kind of where I started when I got out of banking. We were doing acquisitions for a hedge fund, so we were doing 300-400 properties in a year, and you get real familiar in the contract. So that's good. So anyway, so your business started with high volume of transactions and doing the Keller Williams model. Now talk to us about what was the difference and how you changed up your business a little bit. So you went from Keller to Russ Lyons straight over?
Yeah, I had a couple little stints here and there where I just didn't fit in with some of the brokerages, but just didn't work for me personally. So I see why it worked for others. But so that's how I transitioned. I knew that the Keller high volume wasn't for me. I knew my personality style was more emotion, relationship based. But I didn't want to bring in just the relationship. I also wanted to bring in the transaction side of the experience into the relationship, so that I wasn't just relying on being the nice guy that knows how to have a conversation. I wanted to actually come with the experience as well. So, that was the goal from the beginning, was, listen, I'll do a couple years here, get the experience that I wanted. And, this was all the advice of an agent friend of mine that I had at the time. He said, listen, just go do this, get really good at each aspect of a transaction, and then move over and focus on what you think you're good at. So that's kind of why I moved from one to the other. It was planned from the beginning, yeah.
And when we're talking about transaction business and relationship business, I think, over the last couple years, it's kind of like there was a lot of focus on lead gens. It seems like in the real estate thing about you need online leads, you need Zillow leads, and then the more I talk to more recent people, it's more about building the relationship with these people and not treating people as a transaction. And there's kind of like a pool in the marketplace right now because we have a lot of different more tech companies that start up, Open Door, OfferPad, that are more transactional, and then you have more agents that are about relationships. So talk to us about why you lean towards relationship and what's your take on the business.
Total pet peeve of mine.
Yeah.
So I think there's a big difference between a transactional business and a relationship business. The transactional business works. People make it successful. I think there's definitely a niche for that type of a market. Certain people like the transactional business as far as sellers and buyers are concerned. But if your personality doesn't match with it, if it's not the reason you got into real estate, most people don't get into real estate and go, you know what? I want to focus on human resources. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hire 8 different people, an assistant, a showing agent, a listing agent, a sign company, a photography company, and my goal is to put a sign in the yard and never meet my client. That's a transaction business. People have reverse engineered this industry for the last decade, trying to figure out how to outsource every aspect of the transaction, from writing the contract, again, to putting a lockbox on it, photography, marketing, assistance, all the paperwork in the background, and they've done an excellent job with it. They've done an excellent job. But if you haven't gotten in the business to set up that type of a business structure, you're not going to enjoy real estate. Most people don't get into real estate for that reason. So if it's not for you, you probably need to focus more on the relationship side. And the relationship side is, we all know what that means. Most of us got into the business for that reason. So it's just knowing where you fit and understanding the frustration of the transaction side. It's a big pet peeve of mine. I mean, the transactional relationship is why Zillow came about. Mm-hmm. If we were doing a good job of managing our relationships, Zillow wouldn't have a leg to stand on. They wouldn't even think of an online company bringing the value that the relationship that we've developed can offer. And the only reason it came about, and the only reason Zillow came about, is because in the crash, the REO companies, the REO listing agents who found a way to reverse engineer the whole process, because they had to process 60 transactions a month. There's no way they could go take their own photos, hang their own lockboxes, put the sign in the yard, and develop the community relationships that we used to have to do. And so they came from the outside and go, wait a second, I can do this from my office in Silicon Valley. I don't need to be in the state to manage this. And that's where Zillow's born. And the irony is we created the business model for them. So if you think about it, we did it. We did it to ourselves. We did it by creating the business model that allows these tech companies to come in. We handed it to them. We wrote books on how to, essentially outsource every process of this transaction so that you can do more business. And I get it. It works for some agents. They do it great, and I have great relationships with those agents. But let's not act surprised when they figure out how to duplicate our business. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense.
It seems like it seems like these kind of companies make waves. People are, oh, they're fads, and then Zillow comes out with instant offers, then everybody's goes haywire.
Yeah. Zillow, if people think Zillow is going to get into the brokerage business, I think they misunderstand technology. Zillow has no interest in brokerages. They have no interest in hiring agents. They have no interest in dealing with everything that has to come with the relationship side of what we do. Why would they? They can sit in one office, make money off of what we do. It'd be like saying Uber's going to start hiring taxi cab drivers. Mm-hmm. They're not a taxi cab business. They're a technology business. Zillow's a technology business. They make a ton of money and don't have to manage anybody. If you've been on a team, a transactional team, if you've been on that, you understand the turnover, the exposure, the liability that comes with running a team in a transaction business. All it is human resource management. You're dealing with agents. It's a revolving door because people don't like making phone calls and being in a call center. Mm-hmm. So as soon as an agent gets training, they move out. I've hired agents for teams. I know how this goes. You hire them, 3 months, they get training, they get frustrated because they're only making 30% on a deal, and then they move on and move out. That's just the transaction. Zillow has no interest.
There's still a lot of those models out there that
they dominate.
That do that.
Mm-hmm. They dominate. They do a very good job at what they do. They have really good hiring managers, and they just create a really good hiring program.
Were you on a team?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and they did great. I still have a good relationship with them. We do cross deals all the time.
Yeah, and it seems like a lot of people start there, and then they
move on.
They move on. Have you ever been in a transaction with one of these transaction-based businesses? And if so, how was the experience? I know you've done a number of deals. Has it ever been like Open Door Offer Pad, and how was that experience on the
pretty
other
good
side?
Yeah, usually pretty good. They've done a good job.
Like internally.
Yeah, they have to because that's all they do. So if you're not good at your transaction and you're a transaction business, you're not going to be there long. So the ones that have been there long are very good at what they do. I've always had really, really good experiences with them. OfferPad, those guys are great. They respond very quickly with cash offers. We all know that they're low balls. They have to cover marketing expenses and brick and mortar, all of that. But yeah, from a business standpoint, dealing with teams is usually a pretty good experience. You know who to email, you know who you're going to get a call from, and it's managed pretty well. Yeah, I've always had good experiences with them.
In the marketplace, it always seems like as technology progresses, it starts to take people's advantages away. Do you foresee a time where there is some type of technology where it's like a hybrid of this that really, grabs a hold of the real estate market?
Oh, it's inevitable. Yeah? Absolutely. I mean, you're a tech guy,
yeah.
Right? I'm not worried about Zillow. I'm not worried about OfferPad. I'm worried about the millennial who's sitting in his mom's basement right now, who refuses to clean up his room because his mom's selling the house, and there's a showing taking place, and he's sitting in his basement with his buddy playing Halo. And they've done coding, and they've done tech, and they follow all the programs that me and you follow, and they're frustrated because they see an outdated agent showing a frustrated buyer a house, and they go, there's got to be a way we can do this better. I'm worried about that guy and what he's thinking and what he's creating in 5-6 years.
Yep.
It's been corporate, mostly. But the ones that eventually make a massive impact in this type of an industry are the ones you're not even thinking of right now. Mm-hmm. I'm not worried about virtual reality anytime soon. I think that's coming at some point, and I'm sure you guys are going to be on the forefront of that. I don't see the virtual reality aspect taking the place of a showing. I just think it's going to be an addition. Like you guys added drone technology and the Matterport and all these other great things. It's never going to replace, I'm sorry, not never, but in the next decade, it's not going to replace. People aren't going to put on a headset and buy a house because of that experience. Mm-hmm. We're a ways away from there, not just the technology, but the experience side of it. But again, it's the millennial that's developing the technology and the concept now for when the millennial in 10 years is going to be buying a house. and his understanding of what they want and how they buy things now, their instant gratification, everything that they consume now. When they go to buy a house in 10 years, that technology is going to be developed for that person. And right now, we just don't have that. We're very comfortable in our industry. Yeah.
Right.
It's going to be some time, but it's going to come, yeah.
Yeah, and I would have to agree with you. And I think, like, right now, people, it's almost like the real estate industry gets offended when somebody, Zillow, Instant, are like, oh, my gosh, they're going to take our jobs away. It's going to be inevitable. But how do you, I guess, safeguard your job from that as a real estate agent today to kind of limit the blow that when something like that comes out, maybe it's they compete on price or low price and the relationship. Is there something that an agent can do today to kind of help, stay relevant, when the inevitable time comes that something like that? I guess we can talk about it inevitable. We don't know because it's not out there yet, but.
Yeah, I would say just focus on the relationships and be really good at understanding the process of the transaction and how you can be better than the next thing. But again, if it's inevitable, you just have to be, like you said, be on the forefront, be the first person to offer the new technology, be the first person to
what I think is it's a matter of a value exchange, and when people see what they're getting in value for what they're paying, I think right now there's a lot of agents that maybe put in $500 worth of work and they're getting a large commission. I think that'll eventually start to shrink and come in closer. You got to increase the amount of value that you deliver, or there's going to be something over here that will figure out that component.
And no different than selling a $100,000 house in Guadalupe versus a $3 million house in Scottsdale. Your commission checks are significantly different, but don't kid yourself about your level of financial commitment to the lifestyle, the marketing, the client acquisition. Sure. Everything that's associated with that transaction is 30 times more than the $100,000 transaction.
And it's usually a longer close cycle on a bigger one, and a lot of times it's a kind of a crapshoot,
right. And if you think the phone calls that you get from a $3 million house over the 2 years that it's listed is any less than the $100,000 transaction anywhere else, if anything, it's more. So even if you set the precedence up front about the management and how long it might take to sell a specific house, your client management from a relationship standpoint is just as much, if not more. Their expectation of what you do over those 2 years, you're going to earn your money. People think that, I'll just up my transaction volume by increasing the purchase price, and I'll make more money. Yes and no. You're going to be working more. But yeah, I guess technically you'll be making more money per transaction count, but your hours worked is probably more. It's just a different lifestyle choice.
So I went to one of your listings recently, and I noticed a car out front. It was a Tesla. So, I was very impressed. I'm like, is this Chris?
Yeah, you're a tech guy.
What did you drive before? Because I remember I was like,
an old Caddy, a CTS.
Yeah,
the old
Cadillac. Yeah, you had a Cadillac.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, Chris in the Tesla. So how was it seems like there are some agents that use the Tesla. Obviously, it's great on gas because it's just
there's no gas.
There's no gas.
So it's real good on gas.
How has it been driving a Tesla as a real estate agent? Because it's not 100% self-driving and stuff like that. What are the key features? And what do you love about the Tesla? I'm a car guy. That's why I asked. This is kind of like off the cusp. Agent perspective on the Tesla.
Number one, because you have a fleet of Priuses, don't you?
Yeah.
So HOV plate. That's number one.
Perfect.
Skipping the traffic while doing showings and lockboxes and all that other stuff. I used to have to try to time my day around certain traffic buildup.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't have to worry about it. I just get in the car and leave. So that's been nice from a convenience factor. The registration, I think I got a 5-year registration for like $70.
Really?
Yeah, for a brand new car.
Oh my
so that was kind of nice. And then the other one is, I don't know if you've seen the big screen, the massive.
Yeah.
It's almost, it's twice the size of it.
Can you put in like a whole showing route in there and you're like, dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. And what's nice is you can zoom out and zoom in, and from the back seat, I can, for like out of state buyers that come in and you're just showing them around the valley, you can kind of show them different areas without having to look on little maps. And while you're driving, you can point it out, and it's really convenient from that perspective. Yeah.
Man.
It's nice.
I would hire you just to show me around in the Tesla, man. That's an added benefit for working with Chris. So
tech stuff. What do you see coming down?
Tech stuff.
You're the guy. You're my marketing guy.
Yeah, obviously I think VR, but until we hit mass, it's going to be kind of how it is right now, where you're using that the 2D screen like an iPhone to kind of get the the three-dimensional thing. I mean, there's always things coming out.
Right.
You never know. We always are looking for what's ahead. We're dabbling with a new technology right now that's kind of like a Matterport, but a lot faster and simpler, where we can crank out 2D schematic floor plans, because I think those add a lot of value to the transaction. We're always looking for different things, like stuff like this. I think this is part of we just built out this room, but
This is awesome.
being able to stay in front of your audience and produce quality content is going to be part of the key, in a social world, and we want to be delivering those kind of products to our customers as well. So I mean, there's a lot of ways to grow your business, but technology-wise, you never know. Obviously the drones are getting better. The drones are getting cheaper. Camera technology is ridiculous. I think everything else is catching up to it now, because everything's like 4K, but nothing can handle 4K, like streaming and stuff like that.
Do you see a big difference in quality between 4K and the 1080?
Yeah, there's a big there's a quality, like pixels. It's 4 times the pixels, and but probably 90% of it is being consumed at 1080p or less because of the streaming of it. So it's not too relevant, but what we use 4K for is to be able to punch in. You can get like almost like 4 times zoom on your lens. So if you're flying a drone in 4K and you want to get a different shot, you can easily zoom in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's...
So what's your opinion on, because I heard this the other day, the technology of 4K has really surpassed the concept that most people are consuming content in 4 or 5 inches.
Mm-hmm.
Is the pixels that much better to where if
not,
I'm looking
not
at
on
a tour?
No.
Okay.
Definitely not,
curious.
because even right now, my iPhone 7 Plus is only 1080p, the screen. I had a Samsung before. I lasted about 2 weeks on a Samsung device.
Couldn't do it?
Threw it in
Oh,
the
man,
garbage.
I'm a Droid guy. Come on.
Yeah, it was a 4K screen, but you can't really tell a difference.
Right.
Because, the eye, even mine, I can't really see the pixels. Retina, is good.
So on a 4K, where is 4K being consumed?
4K.
Is it a desktop?
No, probably on TVs. There's a lot of TVs out now that are 4K. You can buy a 55-inch 4K display. I mean, you can watch 4Ks on your device, and you got to be like looking this close to actually see a difference in quality between 1080p and 4K.
So if I was going to do social media marketing and buy a camera, and I knew that my target audience typically isn't going to consume media on the television, for me, television or on a desktop. It seems like most people are consuming mobile, at least from our tracking on the websites. 1080 is fine.
Yeah, 1080 is fine. But on that topic, I was going to say that a lot of consumers are starting to consume things that are not so, like TV is more of a commitment, because you got to sit there and watch.
Right.
I think I see the emergence of audio. So like this show right now will be converted into on our iTunes podcast and stuff, so people can consume it that way.
At the gym
it's
or
kind of
whatever,
like So, anyways, there's technology-wise, Alexa
we just got
skills
one.
and stuff like that. I have 2 of them at my house. I think those will be game changer in the future to get like your briefing for the day and keep you on track. I think voice is going to be big, and that'll keep our cars a lot safer too. I think when Siri gets smarter. She's not very smart right now. When you tell her to do something, she doesn't do it. But yeah, I think I'm very optimistic on technology, and anyways.
Yeah.
We love what
What
we
else
do.
you got? Anything else?
Nothing. Here's a question for you. Why? About Lister Pros. So why did you choose Lister Pros? I know there's options out there. Why do you?
The options are overwhelming. Yes.
I can't even keep track. I don't even know. Like, just like my sales guy's like, oh, there's another one. I'm like for me, I don't really care too much, because we're on our own path, doing our own thing, and doing. Really, I think that's the same thing as if you're in the real estate business. You can't just be looking at, oh, that person's so successful, I want to do that. But maybe their business model. Like when I first got my real estate license, I saw my friend, and he was very successful in the property management business, and I was like, oh man, I want to do that.
Yeah.
He's making good money. But then I got it, and I went through a property. I'm like, dude, that is not for me. Even the primary real estate thing, like it's good. I've done a handful quite a few transactions, but I really like you kind of go into it and then you find your way,
Right.
what fits you, and that's how we've kind of evolved over time, like what we want to do long term. We don't want it to be like, oh, I hate coming to work. Man, I don't even work anymore. It's just I come to work and I get to work on things that I really love, and that's cool. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
After having worked in banking for so long, I enjoyed it for a while, but then anyways.
So why Lister Pros? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Why Lister Pros?
Oh God. Well, the first thing was, when I first met you, you were slanging photos by yourself.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you were the guy.
Man, I was doing like 8-10 homes a day by myself.
I know.
All over the valley, because we service the entire valley for the same price. Still do today, but it's just like,
So when I first met you, I got that from you. That was the feeling that I got was, dude, this guy's a hustler. He doesn't complain. He takes great pride in the quality that he puts out. And I just, from the beginning, I was like, I'm going to give this guy a shot. I'm going to keep using him. I got a good product at first, and then you just kept getting busier and busier and busier. I'm like, man, this guy's got something going on. And then just stuck with you. And so now I was a little, not concerned, but with any growth, I'm like, I wonder if this is going to drop off. He's got all these different agencies hiring photographers. He's getting no change.
Yeah, no change. That's
the product was consistent.
That's always your concern as a owner. When you're running by yourself, and then that first hire is very critical, because that you can basically double your production, but then you're relying so heavily on the one.
Yeah, because what do you do if he leaves?
Right, exactly. So now, we're in a position, I don't know, 20-something employees, I guess, but we train and, we...
cross-train so everyone can do a lot of it.
Right. So now it's, you're not so much at risk, but...
That's why I did it. That's why I went with you. It was original. I was like, man, this guy,
I remember doing the drone video at the horse property, the
equestrian
park.
Yeah, that was one of your first one, not first ones, but just started the drone stuff.
A couple years ago, so.
But yeah, now so I get a predictable outcome. I know it doesn't matter who shows up. I could care less about the photographer. I mean, I know that the guys that show up now, but it doesn't matter, because I know when I get that email, which is pretty impressive because it's usually same day, which is amazing, that it's going to be fantastic every single time. I don't have to question it. I can put it off on my plate. Don't have to think about it. Push enter, and I'm done. It's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for the insight.
Yeah.
Anyways, if somebody's watching this and they want to get a hold of you, maybe ask you some more questions about real estate, list or sell a home, or pick your brain, how do they get a hold of you, Chris?
So our group website is thewgroupaz.com. The W,
like the W.
Yeah,
group.
THE.
Okay, THEW group.
az.com. Or my cell phone is always on, which is real estate, right? 602-561-1346.
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
Thank you for being on the Real Estate
thanks
Pro
for having
Show.
Me. Always,
and it was a pleasure.
Glad to see your growth, man. I'm happy to see this. Great
and we'll
setup.
see you guys on the next episode.